Ding, ding. So UFC 276 has just completed, or a few hours ago at least. We got together and watched the fights here down under. The Anzac Spirit, John Anik alluded to.
Very strong.
Obviously, both title fights were won by, or retained by...
and handily as well. Very strong.
By an Aussie in Alexander Volkanovski and a Kiwi in Israel Adesanya. I think the only thing that changed from last week was Lawler and Barberena getting bumped up to the main card, with Lauren Murphy getting COVID. So she will they'll reschedule her fight with Misha Tate. We'll start from the top, the big fights, and move down. And still middleweight champion of the world, Israel Adesanya. Didn't really look fazed by Jared Cannonier, although Cannonier arguably maybe one of the better contenders in terms of pushing Israel.
Yeah, he made this fight more interesting. He was one of the more aggressive guys to try and take it too easy in this one, and he had a couple of moments. Israel overall, like we were saying last week, was just too technical, too good.
How about his takedown defense?
Yeah,
that was a massive thing with Cannonier shooting for the takedown, and Israel would get driven into the fence, and then that was it. He just as strong as he is, and he's built like a brick shithouse, and former heavyweight in Cannonier. Izzy doesn't look like he has that strength. He looks like he's lanky, but he's strong. He's fucking strong, and Cannonier just couldn't take him down. Two judges did score at 49-46, so Cannonier must have won the third round.
Well, he did. In our opinion, he definitely won the third round.
Yeah, that's the way we scored it. That's the way we scored it, indeed.
That judge that gave all 5 to Israel, eyes painted on.
doesn't change. It doesn't change anything. But
it was a dominant performance from him.
But it just highlights as well, and we talk about it every time we talk about the UFC, is the discrepancies in the way that judges score it.
It's actually been big this week. A lot of people talking about the boxing scoring and why we're still using it. We should go to our own system.
Yep.
Doesn't have to be 3 judges. Doesn't have to be Rambo round. What are we scoring against? Something should be looked at. And
something needs to give. Something needs to give.
And every year it happens. Like, you get a few terrible decisions, and I think there was a couple in the fight night last week. That kind of, again, puts it in the media's front and it blows up and everyone talks about it. So, but nothing's really changed, and Dana's an old fighting head and came from the initial boxing system when they kind of put it in. Got a background in that, and I still think it's the same sport. Really, they should still be doing. They should be doing their own thing, but it's just what it is. What it is. The commissions, of course, that run and put on the events, they use the same judges. So they have judges for boxing. They use the same ones for mixed martial arts. But then, you kind of. That's the question. That's Rogan's famous question to always ask is they know how to judge boxing, but there's so much more facets in a mixed martial arts fight. So do they know what they're watching? And
I just don't understand, with the size of the UFC now and the popularity of it, how do they not get MMA expert judges?
Why don't they have their own judges on the books and do it that way?
But
obviously in the States, the commissions, it's just is what it is, and they play nice. Yeah. But anyway, either way, in this one, no issues. It didn't affect anything. No issues with judges' decisions. They got it all right in Alex Volkanovski's fight. Yep. The 50-45 for him, he just tore Max apart, unfortunately for Max. Took another step up, cleaned out that division, showed he is a class above all the others, and then called out the lightweights. He's coming,
taking a step up.
How do you think he will go against an Oliveira or a Gaethje or a Poirier?
Yeah, I think we chatted about, we worried about his size, but then Charles Oliveira was basically the exact same size as Max is. So.
Holloway could fight as a lightweight.
Yeah, and he did come. Well, he came up to try to fight Khabib and then couldn't make the weight because he was 165 or 170-ish back in the day. So we know Alex can carry weight. It's well talked about.
That's right. His rugby career, they do know, I think, now the difference between rugby and rugby league, or at least verbally are able to articulate it. Famously used to play prop for the Wirrallah Gorillas. What a good name. And was... I think they said 214 pounds in the UFC. I think he was heavier than that. I think he has said that he was over 100 kgs. Yeah, which is
he looked like it, big lad.
Yeah, 225, 230 in the US talk. So there's definitely no reason why he can't put on an extra 10 pounds and fight at that.
It's just less a cut for him.
The
question is more reach and length, and does his power translate?
Yeah. I think reach for me isn't an issue. Like, he always fights guys that are taller than him, and he always beats guys that are taller than him. So I think, for mine, the reach isn't too much an issue. You just watch the way that Oliveira and Gaethje and Poirier are able to starch blows.
Chandler as well.
That's
up for that lightweight division is just full of killers.
And does Volk have that behind his punches? That's my only concern.
I don't know, but in this one, he showed Max is a fast fighter, and he could barely touch him. So
it was his best. It was his best showing.
Easy, elite hand speed, so much quicker.
And we talk about how all the US or Max Holloway fans at least hate Volkanovski because they think that Holloway was robbed at Fight Island in their second fight. That dispels all of those.
No doubt.
There's no doubt. There's no asterisks. There's no question marks around Volkanovski against Holloway now. That was an absolute clinic, a 5-round clinic from the champ. He's got a great attitude, and he lets people talk the shit and let him boo, and he was talking to the camera on the way out, and he went out and backed it up with his performance.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is he was saying as well, he'll be active. And he is very active. He's fought twice in the last 3 months already. He could win a belt and be active and retain both of them, which hasn't been done a lot recently. The guys that double up have only really ever defended one, or
it's pretty rare.
So
it's pretty rare.
Yes,
it's awesome. It's so good. As Aussie fans, win dang Australia. It's Wollongong, Shell Harbour kind of area, Lake Illawarra, not far from where we live. It's awesome to see him performing on the world stage and cleaning out that division, and wishing him all the best going to lightweight. He'll just get the title shot straight away, won't he? It'll come down to...
The problem is the title is in a messy space
at the moment with Oliveira missing the weight.
There currently isn't a champion, so... And so Oliveira fought for... Did he fight recently for the interim coming up?
Yeah, so he missed the weight by half a pound, so that's why he couldn't be the champion. So that's why there's no champion at the moment. He's the number one contender.
Yes. So, but isn't there a fight booked for him coming up?
I think so, yeah.
And I think that hopefully that's for the official title. It'd make no sense if it wasn't.
Has to be, yeah.
You'd think so. So, that's the most likely one, Charles there. But they had a lot. Those 4 guys we just mentioned before, all of them.
They're all there.
They're all there. They all wanted to see it. They all must have heard the whispers, the rumors that Alex is coming. So he's put them all on notice, because if he says, like he said, he wants to be active, if we follow the storyline, he beats Oliveira, then he's going to have to fight one of those 3, or if not all 3, if he wants to clean out that division as well. So a lot of suitors in the lightweight division, unlike there is currently in the featherweight. So yeah,
and I love Volk's my boy. I love him, but I don't know if he has the power to go up and clean out that division. Yeah, well, I'm going to love watching it.
Yeah, I think. He's even at a featherweight, he's not the most powerful. No. He's a strong striker, but
other than Zombie, who he gave an absolute touch up, all the other title defenses went the distance.
Yeah, and I think the best probably comparison from him is Conor, because Conor had great power at that division, then went up to lightweight, and it still translated. But then as you go up, it goes down. But Conor had unreal power for featherweight. That was clear to see. He starched everyone he touched. But
and it's a comparison in that Conor did it, but they're different fighters.
Yes,
that's where the comparison kind of ends. Yeah. In that Conor was able to do it. I'm
talking more from a power standpoint.
Of course,
in this analogy, but and as he went to welterweight, you could see that power basically disappeared because there's just so much of a size difference. It's just different way that it's. How much torque and how much physics and how much mass and power and all force and all that shit you can generate. You can only do so much. So much as humanly possible. And, you're not going to get many guys at featherweight that can have the same, torque and velocity and force that Ngannou does. So it's a different animal.
Bit of physics chat here for you. On the
Yes.
Force equals mass times acceleration. I remember that one.
Yes. Let's go back to Izzy and talk about his potential contender.
Yeah, just quickly, Oliveira. He doesn't have anything confirmed. He wants Conor, doesn't
confirmed. He wants Conor. So Islam Makhachev is the contender for the belt. But yeah, he wants the money fight first.
So that'll be an interesting one to see what happens there. That's not really probably a popular opinion, I think, for, that he wants the money fight. Hats off to you. Get your bag. But I think, fans of the sport probably want to see Oliveira, fight one of those top contenders, or Volkanovski.
Yeah, if I'm Conor, I'd probably want to go back to the featherweight division.
That's a shout there. If he could drop a little bit more of that weight, that division's been cleaned out.
Like he did struggle to do to 145, but he did the same. Like he cleared that division out and bounced. That division's probably a bit softer, but that's the conversation. You work your way back in that title. Then he's been there and done that. That's the other thing. And the lightweight division has bigger names in it currently and a bigger competition. So, but anyway.
Well, let's talk about it now because we're talking about Conor. There's murmurs that Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather 2 may occur.
Well, Floyd's already offered him like $150 million for it.
Yeah,
so as if Conor does it down.
So what's he going to
$1 billion fight card or something like that?
Yeah. What's Conor going to do? Go back to the UFC and maybe make $1 million to go fight Oliveira or Volk or whoever.
I think he was getting $20 million for the Cerrone fights, and then for Dustin it was probably in the. It's double digits, but it's not $150 million. His first Floyd fight was by far the most money he'd ever made in a fight.
So much, dude.
But then again, he does have, I think, $1 billion whiskey industry at the moment. So
and that goes back to our chat before. How much does it come down to money For Conor does feel like it comes down to money.
Yeah. The question is, as the other point, is it legacy now for him? Like, does he really want to do a title run again? Or is it like, let's get all the bags I can and bounce?
And he wasn't embarrassed by Floyd Mayweather, though.
No.
He
won 8 rounds.
He went the distance, didn't he?
No, they stopped it. They stopped it really early as well.
That's right.
He never went down, but the judge kind of jumped in and said,
but it was
this is more of a show.
It was in the 8th round, wasn't it? And it was going to be an 8-round fight.
No, 10.
Oh, it was going to be 10.
10, yeah.
Well, it's funny that my memory's a little bit skewed on that day. Had a few beersies that day. That is for sure.
Okay, back to Israel. Potential contender coming up.
Well, that means we need to talk about Alex Pereira.
Yes. What he did to Sean Strickland.
This may be the best striker in the world that we're talking about. He's definitely in the conversation in Alex Pereira. First round KO, unranked at the moment in middleweight. He's kind of been fast-tracked given his kickboxing record. He has beaten Israel Adesanya twice in kickboxing. One went to the decision. One, he actually knocked him out. So he's got that, I suppose, in the mental kind of mind games over Izzy. The question is, we were watching it. Oh, does he get fast tracked straight to a title fight and fight Izzy? And then he kind of alluded to it in his post-match presser in Portuguese. We had to rely on the translator, but Israel Adesanya's name was announced, and then Izzy spoke about him after the fight, saying, kickboxing's different and this and that. And,
I want him next.
I want him next. So, I think Dana probably puts that on.
Yeah, I think we were talking during the fight or leading into it, like for Alex to get that title over probably the number one contender fight with Vittori and Whittaker coming up, that he would need to put on a show, and it's like, hey, get a first round stoppage, make it good. That's the storyline. And it lines up well. They can do a late, November, December fight for that. Get it done this year. And he goes out and gets a first round knockout, an absolute starching. Did it easy against Sean Strickland, unfortunately. And the hillbilly, as you refer to by Israel, poor Sean Strickland.
He never minces his words, does he?
No.
As I did just then. We were kind of looking at other fighters that were kind of fast tracked and
unranked straight into a title.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. Like Conor McGregor, speaking about Conor, he got fast tracked. Cody Garbrandt kind of got a little bit fast tracked. Ronda Rousey is a bit of a caveat. Like, she was already the Strikeforce champ. The UFC bought it, and then she had a meteoric rise to fame. But this Alex Pereira, it would be highly revered and go down in UFC folklore if he was to go up. He's currently unranked. Obviously, he just beat the 4th ranked in Sean Strickland. You imagine he goes to 4 now. You'd imagine in the rankings. Yeah, if he goes out there and ends the run of Israel Adesanya, geez, you'd be talking about it for years.
And I think for Alex, if either they've planned this really well or the UFC's just managed to happen perfectly. But the storylines fits nicely where Israel has beaten everyone else in that top 5 to 6 already. He's cleared that out. And then, the guy with wins over him is coming in and has done well. Like, he's in that conversation, like, yes, he's a legitimate contender, that they can put that on and they can build a nice story around that. So, be interesting. We might be in for one of the best kickboxing matches in the UFC's history. I don't think there'll be a takedown attempted in that one.
Well, interesting you mentioned it. There wasn't a takedown on the main card tonight. So a lot of
a few attempts, but
a lot of stand-up strikers on the card there.
DC, have a tear in his eye on commentary. I bet you could be back home with the same thing. It was like
that's it.
It's changed a little bit with the wrestling tack. There isn't really a big wrestler.
Elite wrestlers that are champions
at the moment, because Oliveira is more of a submission specialist.
Usman.
Yeah, he's got that background, but he hasn't had to
use it recently.
Well, I think he's so much as nullified it. Like the guys like Colby and that, they don't want to wrestle because they know there's no point. That's just stand and bang. So they've gotten to the point. I guess Khabib was a cheat code, and he was so far ahead of everyone else's wrestling. He just relied on it so much. It was just so many steps ahead of the game in that regards. The wrestling that. He just relied on it so much. That was his world, and he's going to dominate you no matter how good you were.
It's definitely going to be very exciting to see which fights get announced moving forward. Let's talk about the other fights on the main card. So Brian Barberena defeats Robbie Lawler in the second round TKO via punches. This was a stand and bang brawl of a fight. Often Robbie Lawler, this is the way that he wins or loses fights.
Barely moved out of the pocket, these two, and they just
exchanged, and both were landing consistently, throwing bombs.
Lawler, I think, had the better power shots and looked like hit harder. But in the end, it was the volume. The volume weighed him down, and I think the jumping front elbow, which kicked it all off, really got that get that bell rung. And then Brian just followed it up. Robbie couldn't. He had great head movement at the start, but once those sensors were gone, he just couldn't dodge those punches and was just eating them. And then in the end, the ref had to jump in and save him, which is unfortunate for Robbie.
Great fight. 40-year-old
age. Yeah.
What about we're looking at his first fight in the UFC, 2002?
Yeah.
20 years.
20 years.
20 years in the UFC.
I don't think anyone's been in the UFC as
longevity,
long or still in the UFC as long as he had been.
He's 40. No, talk about retirement. It wasn't like the Cowboy fight, which we'll talk about in just a second. The most underwhelming thing that happened in UFC 276 was the no contest between Pedro Munoz and Sugar Sean O'Malley. They kind of went out a little bit cautious in the first round. There was a questionable low kick, a cup kick from Sean O'Malley, and then an eye poke in the second round finishes it. Now, Joe Rogan, he said that he thought Pedro might be reaching for a disqualification. This is pretty unusual for the commentators to even allude to something like that.
Yeah. Especially with the word reaching. Like it's kind of
like he didn't want to fight him kind of thing.
It's strategy. It's like he's gone this route, the strategy. And it's like,
And it was a fight that a lot of people were really looking forward to. Sugar Sean finally getting his ranking at 13, but he hasn't beat a top 10 guy. He lost to Cheeto Vera, and Munoz is ranked 9th overall at the moment. So it was definitely a litmus test for Sugar Sean, and he probably was robbed of the opportunity to prove himself against a top 10 fighter. It
was a fair eye poke though, like fingers pointing up.
It was. I've seen worse. Yeah, I've seen worse.
Still,
there was
getting put in the eye
sucks. The Cannonier Izzy fight.
I reckon the one that Cannonier cop was worse, I reckon.
I think the Sean O'Malley one was worse because it was pointing up and it went like up in the eye socket as well.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It looked pretty bad, but either way, no contest, and they'll either have to rebook it, run it back, or do something different.
I like the idea of running it back. Running it back because now people are going to talk shit. People will talk shit about Pedro now. He was getting booed in the stands. You know, memes are plenty already. So I think running it back wouldn't be the worst option.
I think Rob Font and Yair Rodriguez ran it back after no poke in theirs as well, which ended up being a no contest, and they fought like 2 months later.
Yeah,
so it's not unheard of. Finish up the undercard?
Yeah, undercard. So a few notable moments. Monks shouted Cowboy a beer, so we won't go too much into his career achievements. But Jim Miller, he had the second round guillotine, and he goes to outright.
What a career for him as well.
Outright most wins in the UFC, 24. He was equal with Cowboy and Andrei Arlovski. So Cowboy retires. Arlovski could keep going. He's still fighting and winning, and is a freak. And then,
Arlovski's probably, I wonder when he started in the UFC.
Yeah, it'd be a long time. It'd be a long...
He might pip Robbie Lawler there.
A long time. Jim Miller, if you haven't heard the chat that he had with Rogan regarding, his career and battling Lyme disease. He got bit by a tick, I think back in 2013, 14, something like that. And he was crook for years. And he kept fighting. He kept fighting despite, having chronic fatigue and
his job,
and joint pains and the rest of it. And he went 1-4, I think, in that kind of stretch. And then once he got over the Lyme disease, which is it's a bacteria that cruises around in your blood and fucks you up. Once he got better from that, his record improved dramatically. So interesting to see him at 38 years of age, still performing. I think he's on a 3-win streak now as well. Yep.
The goal for him is UFC 300.
Yeah, so he was at 100, he was at 200. Can he get to 300? Geez, the way he's fighting, you wouldn't put it past him. We were looking at that, the current formula seems to be a UFC pay-per-view about once a month.
Yep.
So we're at 276, so he needs exactly kind of 2 years more in the octagon, which gets him to 40. Yep. So it'd be interesting to see if he keeps going and what kind of fights they get for him.
On the other side, Donald Cerrone retired.
Yeah.
So long term, he doesn't have the passion for it anymore, he said, and has a long losing streak, unfortunately. I think films. He's
he'll be
avid wakeboarder, loves being on the ranch. So I think more downtime for him, and see if he can do some action work, I'd say, in a couple of movies.
Him and Riot River and Danger, whatever their name is. Some good names for the young fellas. Another interesting one.
Sorry, just real quickly back on that. Andrei Arlovski had his first fight in the UFC, 17th November 2000.
So what UFC is that?
UFC 28.
So he's had 22 years in there.
So
Lawler's at 20.
Yeah, he did have a stint out of the UFC.
Same as Robbie did.
Yeah, Robbie had 9 years out of the UFC.
Yeah, so he got back into UFC around about, I think, 2014. He was in UFC 174.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's freakish. How people do that at 44. I'm 32, I feel old. The other of memorable moment from the undercard was Jalen Turner. Get that man a ranking. That was the call. He smoked poor Brad Riddell fighting out of City kickboxing. Kitty six boxing.
Kicking cats is probably a bad thing. Yes.
Kurt Zuma says hi. First minute guillotine. He looks freakish. He's 6'3". So very tall for the division. The tarantula, they call him. Keep an eye on him, Jalen Turner.